Since I've had my fun destroying DK Island in Donkey Kong Bonanza's new DLC, I decided to answer the question, is this worth $20? I'm sure you have your own answer, but I think it's a bit more complicated than a yes or a no, so hear me out before you go run into the comments. Or don't, you have free will. As per the DLC's name, there are two main parts to it, DK Island and Emerald Rush. Having spent hours destroying the island and even more hours playing the new game mode on the island, I can confidently say that DK Island is neat. It has a few iconic locations like the giant stone DK head, DK's house with the banana horde hidden below, an island styled after DK bongos, a small minecart track, an ancient cavern, some ruins, and that's it? I think everyone understandably wanted a bit more from DK Island, both in its size, I think it could have been scaled up a little bit, and scope, pulling from more locations. Like if it was a bit bigger, the backside of the mountain could have had the ruins of Krem Krok Industries along its slope, and maybe some snow and ice near the peak to emulate Gorilla Glacier from the original Donkey Kong Country game. Still, what is here looks good, and it's fun enough to run around and play in Emerald Rush, but we'll get to that shortly. First, I will also note that the island was built to be ripe with photo opportunities. Across the island are multiple Rambi, which can bring over Cranky Diddy and Dixie whenever you want. This lets you pose with them and take pictures, which is cool, but since this game's photo mode is functional but kinda shallow, I can't imagine you getting more than a single session or two of enjoyment from doing that. Still, you could get a bit more creative using the numerous statues that you can unlock by paying Squawks at his hut to go bring one back. Each statue costs an increasing amount of Banandium chips, and while what you get is random, you don't ever get duplicates, so you will eventually get them all. While you can get extra chips while playing the base game, Emerald Rush rewards you with hundreds if not thousands of chips depending on how well you're doing and how much you play. Oh, and for reference, after 10 to 12 hours of relatively competent Emerald Rush runs, I still haven't unlocked all the statues, so there's that. But either way, once unlocked, and whenever you tidy up using Squawks, the statues are placed strategically across the island to form little collections. All of the elders go in the mountain cavern, the Kremlin crew are over on the galleon, and so on. It's kind of difficult to do, but it is possible to place statues and make funny setups, like I'll also note that the island is host to 6 golden bonus stages, which are painfully short but thankfully replayable if you go to a different layer and then come back. Unfortunately, these are not new stages, but instead the ones you can find in the base game, just made more accessible and replayable. Lastly, upon the Banandium Tone's floating islet is ya boy, the titular Banandium Tone, who is the source of a short series of puzzles which the internet has thankfully already figured out. I'm going to walk you through it, show the answers, and spoil the prize because I don't think it's worth doing on your own, but still, if you don't want those spoilers, skip to the timecode on screen. So, the Banandium Tone speaks in incomprehensible symbols. Certain actions during each step changes the symbol in the following order. If you want to do it yourself, I recommend following the Mario Wiki page, which will be linked in the description, and which is where I'm getting all of this info from. For the first puzzle, you just punch until the symbol changes to a yellow banana. When a puzzle is completed, the Banandium Tone spins and then releases some gold nuggets. Puzzle 2 has 2 symbols, and you cycle the left symbol when punching with your left arm, and the right symbol when punching with your right arm. For the third puzzle, every time you use the hand slap, it'll change which symbol your punches are affecting, going left to right. The fourth puzzle, you choose which symbol you are affecting depending on where you're positioned cardinally, so you gotta just punch them from the north, the south, the east, and the west until they're all banana. So far, that's all fine and dandy, but puzzle 5 is where this whole thing kind of grinds to a halt because your punches cycle 3 of the symbols, and which 3 depends on which Bananza form is currently selected. You don't actually have to transform, but I did for some of this. Either way, after like 20 minutes of trying while looking at the guide, I got it done, but honestly, I felt like I just lucked into the solution. For the 6th puzzle, each symbol changes when you punch, and you need to lock in a given symbol by going and completing the corresponding bonus stage. And the 7th puzzle requires you to perform a series of actions to spell out Bananza, which means punching down with B, spin jump, roll, grab, and spin jump. The last puzzle has the Banandium Tone finally saying words, and you have to cycle through them by punching until you figure out that you have to go weave around 2 connected rocks in a figure 8, aka the Bongo Island. Well, since you performed for the Great Banana in the Sky, you get the Quick Changed High, which will occasionally randomize DK and Pauline's outfits. I gave it a try, and it seems to change the outfit whenever you respawn after a death, or you enter or exit a loading zone. This is cool visually, but I don't think it's all that impactful in terms of gameplay. In Emerald Rush, you can't die or enter sub-areas, so you'd be stuck with whatever outfit for a whole run. That might be appealing to you, but it's not for me. Now, if they were to toss in another fur dye, that would definitely sweeten the deal. Thankfully, we still have Emerald Rush. So after agreeing to work for Void Co., which is really an excuse to destroy stuff and make numbers go up, you choose a location and difficulty level. For locations, your first run is limited to DK Island and a difficulty of 1, 2, or 3. While you can see the changing stats for each, the real difference between 1 and 2 is having either 6 or 10 rounds, and difficulty 3 makes you start without any Bananza forms available, which is definitely how they intend the game mode to be played. After a run, if you did well enough to accumulate job rating points, it's added to your total, and you unlock new locations and outfits, as well as new perks that can appear during run in this menu. While the list initially shows the final reward being 2,000 points, that's the milestone where you will probably have gotten the hang of Emerald Rush, and then you'll gain access to a playable credit sequence before being shown that the path ahead extends for quite a while. Passing this milestone also adds a critical mechanic, which is why I wanted to address it before actually talking about Emerald Rush's gameplay. As you may know, during a run you're on a time limit to obtain and fulfill an ever-increasing quota of emerald ore, which is just gold ore before it ripens. As time goes on, your main way of increasing your capabilities are by unlocking perks. You get a perk whenever collecting one of a finite number of fossils, collecting one of the glowing bananas, which are also finite, or by completing Void's tasks, which can vary in location and goal but can be done for as long as you're playing. There are a lot of potential perks, 104 to be precise, but they fall into various categories like so. At the top, you have perks that increase your emerald drop rate when defeating the corresponding monster. You also have perks that increase the emerald drop amount when defeating an enemy using a certain technique or ability. There's also goal-related perks, so you can get more emeralds or chips when completing a Void task. There are a bunch of perks related to items and chests and so on, and of course, destruction-based emerald perks like Superior Smasher, Banana Slamma, and Emerald Polisher. There are of course also sets of perks that affect every aspect of a given Bananza transformation, but the most important in my mind are the perks with Groove in the title. These ones boost your emerald income from all sources based on how often or long you do certain things. This can be distance traveled while turf surfing, time spent in a Bananza transformation, and so on. But now, here's the problem. When you start to play on difficulties 3 to 7, you'll start without any Bananza transformations. You can then obtain the forms by breaking a glowing banana holding the ability, but you're not always guaranteed to have all of Bananza transformations available on the map. On rounds 5 and 10, the banana rewards are shuffled, which means you may be waiting a long time to gain access to a given transformation. What's worse, if you fail to collect a form before the bananas are shuffled, you'll lose access to that form for the rest of the run. Now, when passing the previously mentioned milestone of 2,000 rating points, you're able to spend chips to ban a given perk for the duration of the run. This is fantastic, and this way, you can strategically narrow down the perk pool, which addresses the issue of getting Bananza perks you can never utilize or things you just don't want to bother with. But that can get really pricey. One way to fix this, in my opinion, would be to just change it so that a banana doesn't have a particular Bananza form, but instead is a Bananza banana, and it lets you choose one of the 5 to unlock. Or if you wanted to do it a different way, you can have a NPC at spawn that can sell the Bananza transformation for an obscene amount of emeralds. But that's a lot of talking about how the game mode works, but how does it feel to play? Well, that's kind of a mixed bag. So I like chaos, I like destroying things, I like seeing numbers appear on screen, and Emerald Rush can definitely deliver on that front. It may never reach the insanity of later game Vampire Survivors or Risk of Rain 2, but I had one run that really stood out. Kong Bananza has a perk that extends the initial burst and far-reaching shockwave of charged punches. That perk, along with the others I got incentivizing terrain destruction, it really let me rack up the score. It was a lot of fun, and it was my best run yet for 1.3 million emeralds, but I feel like it could do better, and that's kind of the mode's appeal. Trying to do better each time, learn the locations of all the fossils, balance gathering emeralds with obtaining perks, all that stuff. The issue is that Emerald Rush on layers other than DK Island can be really frustrating, especially at harder difficulties. Void tasks can pop up on any sublayer, and since warp barrels are limited on higher difficulties, you can be stuck trying to navigate across an obscene distance just to go bully some crocoids. To mitigate this, you can reroll the current task in place of picking up a new perk, but this isn't immediately obvious because the option is off screen, requiring you to scroll over to see it. Also, sacrificing one or more perks during a run just because the game keeps assigning tasks in hard to reach locations doesn't feel very fun. If I could propose a change, it would be to block off certain sections of the map, like SL201 of the hilltop, and the underground room of SL800, the resort layer. It could definitely be argued that having these dead-end, hard-to-reach areas is a good thing for the difficulty. It creates a risk-reward scenario. But at the end of the day, I'm glad there's harder stuff in the game, but I think in this case, it's a step too far, where it goes beyond just being difficult into being frustrating, you know? Either way, I'll also throw it out there that Nintendo has announced that there will be limited time Emerald Rush events where you can get exclusive statues not available anywhere else. This means that they do have some kind of longer term plan for the mode, which I hope includes a patch to tweak stuff. There's no way they would overhaul the entire game mode, but I think adjusting spawn rates, perk modifiers, round duration, or that kind of thing is definitely possible. Related to that, I have some smaller gripes that could be addressed by such a hypothetical update. It looks fine at first, but having the banner announcing a new task stay on screen for a few seconds and then the objective box appearing in the upper left feels like unneeded friction. It's not that serious, I know, but I can't help but hold the whistle button and spin around trying to get a visual of the task indicator, which, may I add, does not have a border and is the same emerald greeny turquoise color as the rest of the Emerald Rush interface. If you just made the objective box appear on the left immediately and also throw a small border on the indicator, that would be perfect. Also, when a task appears at the same place as a tuning fork, the icons can almost overlap, which forces you to wiggle the cursor to select the tuning fork if you want to fast travel, which feels kinda messy. Oh, and while you're at it, just rework the perk selection screen to not have any scrolling and instead show heal DK and reroll gold below the 3 perks, so that's, I don't know why they have to be off screen. Also, I get that it's nice showing a big list of all your currently active perks on the right, but that is a lot of valuable screen real estate being taken up by stuff that I don't need to be looking at moment to moment. Maybe you could add an option to hide it, or only show it on the pause menu, or not at all. There is already a place to go check your active perks. I get that their appearance on screen adds to the feel of the mode, but at least try to consolidate them down, you know? The fact that I'm criticizing these minor things doesn't mean that the game mode is unplayable or inherently bad. I think it's a great addition to the game that could be even better if it got some more polishing in the future. It's just that in this day and age, there are some absolutely fantastic games out there for around $20 or less. A paid DLC to an otherwise full price game should definitely more than justify its price. When talking about what you can get for $20, you have a lot of options. While the following games aren't at all similar to Donkey Kong Bonanza's base game, they do deliver on the engaging randomized experience Emerald Rush is built around. A lot of them aren't meant for small kids, so there's also that, but either way. For just $5, you can get yourself Vampire Survivors or Binding of Isaac. There's also FTL Faster Than Light for $10, Balatro, Rogue Legacy, Loop Hero, and Enter the Gungeon for $15. One Step from Eden and Noita are exactly $20 and are both underrated gems. And if you wanted to spend a little extra, you can get Risk of Rain 2, Slay the Spire, Hades, Dead Cells, or Darkest Dungeon for just $25 each. And if you raise your budget just a bit higher, Blueprints is a fantastic puzzle game that you can play for hundreds upon hundreds of hours, and it delivers such a unique experience for just $30. And Deathloop and Returnal are both sold for $60, and while there are arguments to be made that they are or not worth that price, you can often find them on sale, which will make for an even better deal. That is unfortunately not as true for Nintendo stuff. They do sometimes have sales, but the savings are much less than you can find on Steam, Xbox, or PlayStation. As for Bananza's DLC, I think it would have been an incredible addition to the game if it was free, a good deal at $5, worth proper consideration at $10, and just overpriced at $15. Considering it costs $20, I cannot recommend this DLC. The price either needs to go down, or the amount of content needs to go up. Either doesn't feel very likely. Also, while I had fun with this DLC, I probably wouldn't have bought it if I wasn't a YouTuber looking to make content. If you choose to buy the DLC or already have, I do hope you get your money's worth of fun from it. One more quick point, I've seen people discuss how this DLC should have been included in the base game and not sold separately, and yeah, I think I agree. It fits well enough with the rest of the game in terms of theme and content, and it released too soon after the base game with not enough sauce, but that's my opinion. I'm sure you have yours, so please let me know what you think down in the comments below. Just be nice to each other. Also, let me know what you think of this video. I am always open to feedback. Anyways, outro time. Big thanks to my channel members for their support, and a subterranean world size thanks to Shay for being a super fan. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, maybe subscribe, and check out some of my other stuff if you want. That's it for this one. Goodbye.